Well, first I would say that our team this week has had the fresh outlook and mindset and energy that I would have expected that they would, especially with being really a new season for everybody in college basketball when they get ready for tournaments, and our guys have been no different. And I think also with trying to put Saturday behind them because they know they didn't play well, they know they didn't play with the energy and the toughness that they needed to, and our week has been very good for that. And I think leading up into tomorrow night, I couldn't ask for more from them. And they've been attentive, they've been competitive, they've concentrated. The practices have been shorter because of the intensity that they've played with inside of those. And their mindset is very good going into this tournament. And that's what you want more than anything else, because if you don't believe that you can compete, if you don't believe that you've earned the chance to win, and if you're not excited about playing, then those things can never happen. And our guys are in all of those mindsets right now.
Tom, is it odd to be playing a conference team the second week in March that you haven't played since December?
It is. We've gone back a lot further, obviously, and there's been more preparation, but not much has changed in the sense of how they play. The guys that played really well against us have played well the entire year, and maybe they're not playing quite as many guys as they were back then. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that game. We've learned from it as coaches a little bit, but that was, I've said this before, when you look at it, I mean, our energy level, our fatigue level in that game, when we look back at it, was very, very high. And we still had our opportunities to win. And they came in here they were tougher than us that night. There's no doubt about it, because they were coming off a tough loss, and they had some time to prepare and get themselves ready and right. And we were coming off a trip to the West Coast where we didn't play well at all, coming off Christmas, and we played like it. So there's not a lot that we will show from that game, but there are some things that we have learned, and at the same time been able to watch them develop as we've watched their game tapes from the season.
A player like Battle, his ability to score, his ability to do so many things, how challenging is
it's as good a challenge as there is in the league, and we've gone against some very good challenges, obviously. So when you look at the teams we've played the last few weeks, but he is in range once he crosses half court. There's no doubt about that, and it's not about picking him up. You've got to find him very, very early. But again, Tim Frazier's done an outstanding job at the point. This year, he's continued to develop as the year's gone on. Jeff Brooks and David Jackson, those guys can still score, and they can make shots, and they have range. The thing that stands out about them, I think why they're so good is they're tough. They look like they're very mentally tough. I think to come back from the Ohio State game and then turn around and go on the road to Minnesota, that shows great mental toughness. You can see their age and experience coming out when they play. And again, Frazier's emergence has really helped their team. So maybe that may be the biggest difference from when we played him the first time. But nothing's changed with Taylor Battle in any of his years. I mean, he's still a prolific scorer, shooter, does a lot of things really well. And if you're not tuned into where he's at all times, he makes you pay.
You guys did a pretty good job of keeping him in check the first time, but it was Brooks that really exploded on you guys. I mean, you talking about his game?
Well, I saw in one of the articles where Ed was disappointed that he didn't make third team. I don't disagree with him. I mean, I think that's an all-league type of player. And I would say the same about Jackson. And by next year, Tim Frazier will probably be that kind of player because of the kind of point guard that he is. So they're a very good team. I mean, there's no doubt that they're far from a one- or two-man team. I mean, they put, and again, they're not playing very many people, but they really play well together, and they can space the floor. And having a player like Brooks that can score inside, score mid-range, but is also shooting very well and shooting some volume from the three gives them a really good complement of guys that can space the floor to allow Battle to maneuver and do what he wants to do.
What specifically impresses you about Frazier? What's he getting better at, I guess?
That's penetration. An outstanding penetrator. No question about it. And he finds teammates. And I think he's with Darius Morris in the league right now of coast-to-coast guys in transition. And Morris has emerged this year, and so has Frazier. So again, you've got to get back and get Frazier stopped. And at the same time, you're trying to find Battle early, and you know that those guys are coming down the lane trying to tip dunk everything. So, I mean, they're a very underrated running team. It's a very underrated running league, and I think they're very much a part of that. So I'd say the penetration, and I'd say the ability to go from one end to the other, coast to coast, that's what really stands out.
I'm not saying that you have this year, but in the past, have you run into players who kind of have gone into conference tournaments where maybe it seems like they've given up on the season a little bit, and how do you deal with it?
No, I don't feel that way. I mean, I would think I'd be attentive enough to if I saw that. Now, you have to keep making sure your concentration is right, and there's a difference between concentration and losing belief. You got to help get that concentration back. And I don't think we're any different, though. It has definitely gotten better as the week has gone on. But no, I think I'm pretty tuned into that in the sense of if somebody wasn't giving their very all, then I'd have no trouble sitting them down. So, but no, in all honesty, no, I have not. I have not in my coaching time. I have had one or two guys in the past that I thought were playing for themselves, but then by the end of the year they were transferring. So, I mean, I have gone down that road earlier in my career. But I mean, but you figure that out.
Tom, the challenge of playing and winning, 4 games in 4 days. I don't know, maybe if you had to do that in Marquette, I'm not sure, but how difficult is that?
I've never done it. 3 games in 3 days, and we would have had to have 4 games, I believe, in the Big East. But I don't think you can ever look at it that way. I mean, I don't know many that do. I mean, you pack for 4 days. You talk about all that stuff. You talk about 0-0, but if you even remotely get ahead of yourself in a conference tournament beyond the game that you're in, I think you're asking for trouble, because too many things can happen. Too many things can happen, and so many of these things come down to the concentration levels of being able to go to the foul line and make plays, being able to understand what people are trying to do to win games, having that confidence. And so if you spend your time preparing your team and getting them better, and at the same time preparing for that game, well, then you eliminate some of that confusion. If you start saying, well, we can see this on Friday, so let's work on this, and that could happen Saturday, let's put that in, then I think you're giving your team a recipe for disaster. And if I had if we had a team that had just won the league, or a team that was going to be a lock in the NCAA tournament as one of the top seeds, then I might view it differently. And there were times at Marquette that we knew at the beginning of the week that we wouldn't have enough time to maybe prepare for something Cincinnati did or something that Louisville did, so we might put that in early in the week. But those were already times when I knew we were going to be in the tournament, or felt like we were going to be in the tournament, I should say. But it's certainly not here. I don't feel it like that. I mean, it's truly getting ready for Penn State with the only Wisconsin I have seen has been when Penn State has played them. There's been no, and obviously we just played Wisconsin, so it's a little different, but there's been no jumping ahead.
After the Illinois game, you said it came down to will. How do you get that out of your team? How much is it them? How much is it you pushing them to get that will?
Oh, I think it's a combination of everything, but it doesn't matter what any coach does. It doesn't matter what's said, written, thought. I mean, they have to see it themselves. And I think the way they came back in here Monday, they pretty well understood. So this is not a situation where we're going to sit there and browbeat all the things that we didn't do. Just like we didn't sit back and say, okay, look how good we were at certain times against Wisconsin. What we tried to show against Wisconsin the night before was when we had that game, okay, at a 3-point game or a 1-point game, what did we not do to get it over the hump? Because again, like I always say, it's the greatest measure of a player, and this is where you determine who your best players are, is what happens when they can go from down 4 to up 4 in a very close, hotly contested, deep into the game type of situation. And we're trying to constantly get them to understand how to get over that hump. And I fully expected to have that kind of game with Illinois again on Saturday, and it just didn't happen. We didn't set the tone early enough on McCamey. They came out with a ton of spirit and energy. They got some easy baskets. We missed baskets, and it snowballed in the first half. But they continued to play hard, and like I said then, it's not a moral victory by any stretch, but it's not like guys just shrugged their shoulders and we just got knocked around for the next 20 minutes. Now, some guys played better than others, and some guys needed to watch the game from the bench. But Monday, to me, it was starting over completely, and okay, let's see who gets this. Where's the energy level at in this? And it's been very good.
When you look at your own team right now, is there one area or a couple areas that you feel like need to really improve consistently to break this 8-game skid?
Sure. I think it's individual defense. It's not having to help as much. Doing our work early, whether it be in the post, taking angles away on drives, individual defense, And because then when our team defense is constantly being called upon, we're not quite as good or as athletic in dealing with some of these rotations against the better teams. So there's an old saying, guard your yard. And I don't use it, but I mean, and it's really true. I don't know where I heard it, but I know Roy Williams uses it. I've heard it maybe a couple other places. I mean, that's really what you've got to do. I mean, you've got to really stay with your man. And I think that's the biggest area. And then I think the second thing that's most glaring is on the offensive end is we're missing smoking shots. We're missing close shots. We're not finishing great. And we're missing shots that we have made and that we can make. So, but again, we just keep trying to put ourselves in a situation where we don't talk about what we're not doing. We just try to be a little better at how to get there, whether it be the setups for the screens, whether it continue to be the screening, whether it be different actions, whether it be different spacing, rules or types of situations, and focus on that rather than what the end result is, which is whether that ball goes in or not. So, two things there on both ends.
Anything else, guys?
That's it.
We're good.
Thank you.